Is it Cry Me a River or Can't Stop the Feeling? Today we're navigating singer-actor Justin Timberlake's recent DUI arrest. Listen close as the melodies of fame meet the notes of legal proceedings. Ashton & Price is a prominent personal injury law firm right here in Sacramento County. Here he is in his suit and tie. We've got Craig Ashton of Ashton & Price. Hello, Craig.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so Craig, we know you're not a lawyer on this case, but can you explain in simple terms what makes cops pull someone over, or in other words, what's probable cause for a police officer to initiate a traffic stop?
Right, so let's have some more fun with the puns. So we had a former Musketeer as a Vesper Martini inspired by Ian Fleming and James Bond from Casino Royale. He's not in sync.
Not in sync.
You should have found a backstreet boy to bring a taxi back.
No!
So here's the thing. So you got a lot of rights.
Yes.
We have the Bill of Rights. It's enshrined and enumerated in our Constitution. So what he did at 12:18, which is the drunken hour, with Florida plates, which Florida man has already a reputation of not using good judgment,
Yes.
ultimately runs a stop sign and veers out of his lane. So at 12:18, when you got Florida plates and you do that, that causes the attention of the officer to be directed at you. And then when you don't stop at a stop sign, it's called probable cause, which means at that point you can be stopped. And that was how it started for him.
Yikes. Okay, so regarding the arrest phase, what legal factors determine probable cause for law enforcement to detain someone? Is it all about how someone is how they look, how they're behaving?
Right, so that's basically not allowable. So how you look is not something that you can be pulled over for. But he got pulled over for the probable cause of running the stop sign. Then at that point, he gets pulled over, which is legal under the Constitution. And then the officer is doing an investigation. You don't know this, but they're investigating. They took a look at your eyes. They look bloodshot. They can smell alcohol. That's evidence of intoxication. Then they say, how much have you had to drink? And he said, 1 martini. Turns out it was a Vesper, which is Lillet Blanc, Tanqueray, and Grey Goose. So it's like 4 shots in one. So he only had 1 martini, but it was a lot of them. Then ultimately he agreed to a field sobriety test, which is the heel toe, the nystagmus, where they move the finger back and forth to see if your eyes move to determine whether or not you're showing signs of intoxication. So he did those. He could have refused them.
Right.
He said, because the Fifth Amendment says you don't have to incriminate yourself, so you don't have to cooperate. He did that. Gave the officer evidence. He was swaying. He couldn't do the heel-toe test. And then at that point, he was asked to give a pre-alcohol screening, which is a breathalyzer. And he said no, which it is your right to say no under California law and also the law in New York.
And if you say no, does that make things look a little bit worse?
Well, you got to make a determination. If you're not inebriated, you probably say, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you are inebriated, then you probably say no. And ultimately, you are under no obligation to cooperate. You just have to show your license. And you don't have to have a dialogue with the officer about how much you've had to drink. You don't have to do the field sobriety test because that implicates your right against self-incrimination. Once you get arrested, if the officer smells alcohol, you're unsteady, you can't find your registration, you ran a stoplight, you did mention that you had something to drink, which is evidence of that you might be intoxicated, or it's more likely than not that you're intoxicated, then at that point, you're going to be put under arrest. Once you're under arrest, it changes. Then at that point, when they ask you for what's then called a chemical test, which is either breathalyzer or blood, and you refuse, in California, it's an automatic 1-year suspension of your license. Wow. And same thing in New York. So in this particular case, Justin Timberlake refused. Now, my daughter is a deputy district attorney in Nevada County, and she prosecutes DUI cases all the time. So if you refuse under your constitutional right, Fourth Amendment, to say, I'm not allowing you to search me, and I have a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, so I'm not cooperating, then what they do, if there's clear signs of intoxication, they'll call a judge to get a warrant, and then they will draw your blood based upon that. And so you're not scot-free just by saying you're not going to do it. They can get a warrant to draw your blood, and that's how it's approached. So be very careful, because if you decline under the implied consent in California, and Justin Timberlake in this case, you can lose your license for a year automatically, and you get enhanced punishment, more time in jail, and more community service.
Alrighty. I mean, it's interesting to see how it plays out. I know a lot of people are saying, you're a celebrity, you have money, you could have just gotten a driver.
It's Uber, Lyft, driver, fan,
options.
taxi, a limo, a bodyguard. I mean, it makes no sense in this day and age, especially when you're on a world tour.
Agreed.
And ultimately,
and we wanted to see that world tour,
I know.
Craig. So
forget tomorrow.
There we go. We got all the puns with Craig. Craig, always a pleasure having you on the show. To our viewers, you can find out more by going to AshtonandPrice.com.